Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Lynchburg, Virginia. And yet again, another PDGA World Championships is underway. And we have Paul McBeth, six-time world champion and now course designer, joining us today. Paul, let's kick off this press conference. How are you feeling right now?
Feeling nervous, actually. I got a little bit more invested into this world than I have in previous ones.
Can you talk about that? What is invested for you?
Designing New London. It's an honor to have a course on here, and this is a dream to have it this kind of stage. I was just thinking maybe a pro tour might happen in the future, but here we are for Worlds, and then we're here at the beautiful Ivy Hills golf course. I've known Chris since I moved here 6 years ago, and I think they just acquired this golf course about that time, and I played golf here a couple times, and I was like, wow, it'd be incredible if there was disc golf out here, and here we are at 2024.
Well, before we even get to you preparing to win your 7th world title, let's talk about the course design. Throughout your career, have you always been interested in designing courses? Is that something you always thought you were going to do?
Maybe not in the beginning of my career, but as time has gone on, I've kind of seen things where I felt like I was always good at maybe critiquing or tweaking courses to make them a little bit better, making holes a little bit better, and finding ways to challenge the players as the game grew. And actually Kenny Palmer, who passed away, I think last year, and he's basically Bedford disc golf, and he was the first person that gave me an opportunity to design a course, and New London was the second project I had with him. So I don't think I'd be in course design if it weren't for him.
Talk about the design at New London. I know you said it was inspired by your love of European style design in disc golf. What makes that style so compelling to you, and what is challenging in your opinion?
Yeah, New London and just the European style, I feel like you're in the woods, but they have fairways to where you can shape a disc. And I don't feel like that's too common when you're in the woods. You kind of just got to hit a line and hope you get it, to where you're trying to go. But something like New London, the fairways are maybe 20, 30 feet wide, but you're throwing it 400, 500 feet through the woods and shaping it and using the entire fairway and trying to keep it from landing back in the woods, in the rough. And I just think that's like such a beautiful shot that we're able to do. And just being in the woods, it just feels like disc golf still. Sometimes when you come out to a golf course, you kind of get to air it out, but you feel like you're just throwing in a field. So I think that just continues to hold that disc golf element that, that we had, start in the 70s. It's just getting bigger and bigger.
There is artificial OB out there in the woods at New London, and I think everybody has a different opinion on how it should be implemented at the top level of the game. For you, what is your philosophy on adding OB in the woods? And it sounds like some of the OB has been taken away for this World Championships.
Yeah, when I designed New London, I didn't choose to put a lot of the OB there. It's conservation area, so it had to be there. And that was just kind of the land that we had, so we had to work around it. So the first 3 holes had OB on the right, and that was due to the conservation. If I had the option, I wouldn't have put OB there. I think OB there on 1 and 3, it does make sense. They're par 3s. If it was there, great. If it's not, it's okay. 4 was a little bit more challenging, and same thing with hole 6. I didn't design that with the intention of having OB the entire way on the right side, but that's just the land that we were given. And the back 9, they added some OB on 18, which that's not there normally. The only hole on the back 9 is hole 10 that has OB past the basket. And that was just because that land was briars that were 10 feet tall. So we didn't want to mess with that. So I think OB in the woods does work in some situations, but New London didn't have the intention of having OB everywhere like people think.
I remember when we first found out that your course, New London, was going to be at the World Championships this year, I gave you a little bit of garbage being a course designer and playing the tournament, but also you told me that you designed New London with things that challenge you in mind. So what were those things that challenged you, and how did you implement that?
Power shots, and then having to control the way that they land. I just think that's the most beautiful shot in disc golf. Throwing straight is the most challenging shot in disc golf. So if there's a way to put those two together, I felt like that's really what this course is about. And distance can help you on this course if you want to really push the fairways, but each hole kind of has designated landing areas if you want. And what I think is very unique is I think I throw about 11 or 12 fairways or slower off the tees at New London and Ivy here as well. But I'm throwing distance driver a lot on second or third shots, which isn't something that's very common in the courses we play today, but I feel like that's very common in the European style of courses, and it could just be the land that they have or the course designers in general. But yeah, I just think when we're throwing curveballs is really a way to challenge us, and I think these courses are really going to show every element of the game, and you're going to have a very well-rounded game. You can't just be a specialist to come out here and win this week.
Let's jump to Ivy Hill. We're right here on the grounds in the clubhouse. You told me that this is probably your favorite traditional golf course design for disc golf. Can you elaborate on that just overall?
I think because it really is about placement over power. There are 3 holes that I can't birdie on this course because of the distance alone. But I think there are players that can take advantage of that and they can get those holes. But there's a lot of holes, like hole 1, for example, I like to go fairway and then distance driver. And some people like to go distance driver and go as far as they can and then have a short scramble to the basket. But I think this course is very placement heavy. And once players start to figure that out, I think they're going to score a lot lower than they expected, and they're going to like the course a lot more. And I think that's the challenge that Nate and his staff really shot for out there.
How much more or how much less hilly is this property than, say, the Toboggan, which a lot more people in the disc golf world know?
I can't give an honest answer yet because I've only been in a cart. And I'm glad I've been in a cart because I've been able to practice both courses each day, because I don't think that'd be possible. I think we'd have a lot of people wanting to drop out before the tournament started. But it is very Toboggan-esque, but bigger.
Let's talk about you as a player now, Paul. Haven't gotten that big win yet this year. Let's talk about that and maybe what's costing you those strokes that have cost you victory.
Yeah. Well, I tore my labrum last July, and I was able to play the Worlds. I think that was August or September, and I didn't get treatment until January. So we're still in July, so it hasn't been that long. So start of the year is kind of just still recovering and then just getting my bearings under me and throwing again. And I think the European swing is where things really started to click with my game, form, putting, everything. So I feel like I'm really only seven months out of that injury, and I think that's a long enough timeline. But yeah, I think I'm heating up at the right time. Played really well in Europe. I think only Ganon and Ricky were the only ones that had a better track record out there than me.
It's been so long, and you've won so many major championships. You've won so many Elite Series events. You've traveled coast to coast. You traveled all over the world. What motivation do you have to find within yourself to stay competitively, maybe fiery, so to speak, to win that 7th world title?
I think right where I'm at now, I'm extremely motivated. I think, one, my son is something he hasn't seen me win. I haven't won since he's been born. So I want to win being a dad. And then secondly, I think having disc golf taken away for such a long time, I didn't like it. So I want to get back to that winning feeling. I think I'm over the getting back to where I want to be, kind of feeling, and I want to win.
You've told me in the past that, especially during your 2015 season, which people seem to talk about year after year, you trained to an almost obsessive level, and you even admitted to me yourself it was kind of like that. What does training look like for you now? When you're prepping for a Worlds, does it feel obsessive now?
On the course, yes. I've been on the course a lot, more so than pretty much any other tournament. And one, it's because the courses are so enjoyable, so I love being out here on these courses. And two, because I never played Ivy until last Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever it opened up. That was the first time I actually saw the course. New London, last time I played it was over Thanksgiving. It was a little cold. But I don't get to come up to these courses too often. So it's always a joy to come out here and play them. And having the challenge of being precise on my drives, and then still the challenge of I'm going to have a lot of 40-footers, and that seems to be my weak point this year. So just getting out there and drilling a lot of things. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I want to get back to that. You said 2015. I think 2019 was probably the one year that's very overlooked, and that wasn't that long ago.
During your last world title, a lot of people noted that you made a pretty distinct form change during that week. You dropped the off arm completely dead at your side. And you've been known to make these noticeable tweaks over the years to your game. And a lot of players with your experience don't seem to do that as much. Any tweaks lately to your game? Any mechanical changes?
No, I feel really healthy. Usually the tweaks are due to injuries. Like I have my first rib pop out a lot on my right shoulder, just up here, and I have to get that worked in a lot, and that kind of really struggles to get my arm up. So it prevents hyzers being on point, and turnovers. Definitely can't throw turnovers. So I've had issues like that to where if I pull the left arm, I can move a lot more than if it's moving up and forward and back. And then mainly, those things come due to injuries. So this week I'm healthy, so hopefully people think my form looks like it 2015.
Paul, you've told me in the past that when you train for these world championships, how do I ask this? You say that putting is probably one of the most important things for you, and getting the putting stroke right is the most important thing. How does the putting stroke feel this week, and what kind of practice have you been putting in?
It feels good. Putting feels really good right now. I feel like I'm getting my form and my timing under control and getting the touch on that. So when I feel like if I'm in the woods or if I'm in the open, I can control all angles that I need. But I'm stuck right now between if I'm going with the rubber blend Luna or the CT Lunas, because it's been pretty hot and humid out here. So the rubber blend's getting a little soft. So I wanted to get some CTs, and now it's 67 degrees out or something like that. And the rubber blends might be the ones I'm going with. So bouncing back and forth between the two putters, but still a Luna at the end of the day.
This is a question from Nate Doss, who's going to be calling the action this week. Paul, in your words, what does it mean to be a disc golf world champion?
What does it mean? I don't know. It's such an accomplishment, but it just means that I was so disciplined and dedicated to what I wanted, and I really went for a goal I set. You don't become a world champion by accident. You have to wake up one morning and say, I want to be a world champion, and you got to find the path that you need to take, and you can't veer off it at all.
Paul, thank you so much. Here's a few more questions.
Paul, just a couple. First, Pro Worlds in Virginia. What does an event like this mean to this area with New London, with Ivy Hill, with Lynchburg? What kind of impact does this have?
I think it's incredible. They have Liberty University not too far from here. They have a couple more universities in the town, but something on this world level I don't think has been here. Don't quote me on that, but as far as disc golf, I think I've run into a handful of disc golfers that are already talking about, I think we might move to Lynchburg, Virginia, because we didn't know this was here. We didn't know about this little hidden gem. And I've been telling people for years that Lynchburg will be a disc golf mecca one day. And here we are for the world. So I think a lot of people are going to get their eyes open to Lynchburg, Virginia, Bedford, Virginia, and just the courses that we have and the fans that we have out here.
Speaking just a little bit more on the courses, obviously a great complement to each other with the Woods, with Ivy Hill over here. Where does this rank on the difficulty level of a Pro World Championship?
I think it's number one. Yeah, I think it's number one. I can't think of another course, even when we played 4, 5, 6 courses at World Championships, where 2 were better than these 2 that we have in front of us. The closest might be European Open this year when we finally played a second course. But I think Ivy, kind of blows away the beast.
That's a big one. Right behind us on Sunday, 2 champions will be crowned. What will those 2 players have accomplished over the course of the week to hoist that trophy and actually earn that title?
They will have to be calm all week because you're going to hit a lot of trees. You're going to find a lot of out of bounds, and you're going to be challenged by so many players this week. So you're going to have to stay calm. You're going to have to stay disciplined in whatever you're doing every day to wake up and feel like you're going to be a world champion, because it's not going to be easy out there this week. The field's not going to just give it to you this week. You're going to have to earn it.
Thank you.
Jefferson from the disc golf world here. Paul, can you shed light on the current situation of New London and how people listening could possibly help the cause?
So I only know a little bit that some $3 million grant, it's public. I don't know where to find it, but it's public, that the grant has passed from the state. The money's been given. I don't know where it is in Bedford and all that stuff, but I know that the back 7 holes are pretty much what's going to be flattened and turned into potential plots for businesses to come in. So that's unfortunate because I don't know where the course will eventually go if that happens and what will happen, but it would be hard for me to go out there and want to design something with what I've already done with Kenny, the memories I have with Kenny there, and all the work that Brian's done. So that's as far as I know.
Yeah. What's, in your opinion, makes New London right now a top 10 course in the world, as you've said?
I think the challenge that it has, when I designed that course, I wanted it to feel like, you have 6 throwable open-ish holes, 6 wooded, extremely wooded, and then 6 moderately. And I think we accomplished that there. And I just don't think we have that kind of challenge on tour. And that shot shaping and that having to stay focused on literally every shot. I wish there was a budget to where we could put maybe a little bit more water, a little bit more hazards in there, but that I think would be number one if we could do something like that. But I don't see any flaws with it.
Only because I have the opportunity and I don't want to waste it. As a self-proclaimed Macbeth fanboy, I gotta ask, what are your thoughts on people starting to compare your 2015 season with what Ganon's been able to do so far? I think it's insane, but I wanted to hear what your opinion is.
Go to 2019 and then try to compare.
Cool. That's all I had.
Yep.
And with that, Paul, we have one last question, actually. Why Lynchburg?
Why
is Lynchburg such a hot spot for disc golf? Can you give us the lowdown?
I honestly think Kenny Palmer. I think Kenny Palmer was a big part of it. It gives me chills, just because he would love to be here. I mean, this wouldn't be here without him. So, yeah, he's the reason why we're here.
Paul, thank you so much for your time. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
Welcome back, and now joining us, the tournament director of quite a few big tournaments here in the disc golf world, Nate Heinold. Nate, we're not in Peoria anymore, are we? We're here in Virginia. How you feeling?
I feel great, excited to be here in Virginia.
Talk about this whole process. I mean, first Ledgestone, you got D-Glow, now World Championships. How are you keeping all this straight?
I don't know what day it is, so I would say that's how I'm keeping it straight. No, I have a great team. We've been working on this for 2 years. Every detail's been planned for those 2 years, and so honestly, without my team, I wouldn't be able to do it, so I just have them to thank for this, to be honest.
Well, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Paul. Why Lynchburg?
You know, Paul called me 2 years ago, and I was working on a bid to host the World Championships, not in Lynchburg, and Paul said, fly out here and take a look at this property, Ivy Hill, and my course, New London. And I did, and I just fell in love quickly. Obviously, I designed this course at Ivy Hill, pretty fast that first trip, and it's evolved over time. But the first moment I set foot on it, I wanted to bring a big event here, and it's very rewarding to see it happen.
How easy did the design come to you? Did you step out here and did holes present themselves right away, or has it taken some time?
Like hole one, it took 15 seconds. I looked at it, I stood there and saw the basket. But some holes like 16 and 10 took a lot longer. 16 was a 2-year process, to be honest, to really get right. And so really depends on the hole. But there's so many good holes out here that I think a lot of people just want to give me credit, but they really design themselves, to be honest. And, there's certainly some Nate Heinold flair out there with some tight OB, but, I think the course is very fair.
Talk about how you used elevation to your advantage here. Obviously, D-Glow being one of the most hilly courses in the world, sounds like this rivals it pretty well. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I would almost say I've been lucky that I haven't walked these hills yet. I've had a golf cart every time, and so during the event, I'll be walking just like the competitors and the spectators, and I'm not excited for that. But I would say that this elevation in some areas is bigger than what we see at Toboggan. You think about hole 10, I don't have baskets at Toboggan on that kind of slope on hole 10. And the benefit here is that we have grass that we can stick that basket where we're not looking at, some kind of tripping hazard or fall hazard. But when I saw this property, I wanted to use the elevation, but I wanted to have the views as well of the mountains. And so I think it's kind of a best of both worlds of seeing the mountain views and using every piece of elevation that I could get.
Well, we're going to have the best players in the world playing this property all week, so we're going to get some feedback after the tournament's over. But in theory, when you designed this place, what were you trying to do challenge-wise? What skills were supposed to be challenged?
I wanted to make it a second shot course. A lot of the first shots on the par 4s and the par 5s are not that challenging. They're hard, but it's the second shot where I pinch them off. And so I think you'll hear players say, I'm throwing a putter off the tee and then distance driver for a second shot. That really was what I was going for, is to make them really think about it instead of just blasting off hole 1 or blasting off hole 10. Both good examples of if you club down but then go more aggressive on the second shot, I think you're going to find the benefit. So my entire design philosophy has always been to punish bad shots and reward good shots. And on a golf course, it's impossible to do without out of bounds, to be honest. We have to have that. I don't have a lot of trees here. I have elevation, and I have the out of bounds, and I think we use that effectively to create a very challenging course, but I do think it's very fair.
When you design a course, are there any courses or maybe holes specifically that you've designed or maybe other people have designed that inspire the way that you try to design future courses?
I think early on I used inspiration from watching the USDGC, watching the European Open, but now that I've had some experience really just taking the terrain that you have in front of you, I'm not thinking about, how can I create hole 17 at this course, or how can I do this? It's more of wow, I have this beautiful piece of land right in front of me, and what can I do to create a balanced par 4 for FPO, MPO? What can I do to create a risk-reward par 4, which is what I did with hole 16? And so I think early on, yes, but now I'm just trying to use the land in front of me.
I want to jump to the FPO layout on this course. It sounds like It's not without some controversy. It sounds like there's a slope on 14's green that's turning some heads, and also a forced carry on 13 that a lot of players, even some of the best, are purposefully going out of bounds. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say on 13, I think we did set it up pretty tight, and then we made adjustments in the week earlier, and they probably haven't played the hole since that adjustment. We measured it again this morning, and it was 264 feet with 3 inches of downhill to the slope. So I'm not worried about that hole, to be honest. 14, they both played the same pin, MPO, FPO. I think this is a course where you have to learn the course and learn how to attack that green specifically. And that green, you need to play to the high side, play with an anhyzer to the green. So I'm not worried about either one of those holes.
I want to jump over to the other course, New London, the wooded complement. Obviously, Paul designed that one, and maybe when you've seen that property, what impresses you about Paul's designs?
You know, that property is, it reminds me of Northwood Black. It's a little bit longer and not quite as tight, in that it just forces you to honestly just stay in the fairway and club down and be smart with your shots. The par fives, there's 3 par fives in a 4-hole stretch on the front 9, and I think it really forces you to be very strategic. Not as much on hole 9, but more on 6 and 7. Be very strategic about where you're landing the disc, and I think that is where, if you can make people think and not just have them blast, if you can make them think about where to land, I think you've done a good job as a designer.
Talk about the relationship with the city of Lynchburg. Talk about how it's come to be. Talk about how maybe easy or difficult it's been to get this world championship here.
You know, when I first came here, I met with Margette and Andrew and their staff, and then I met with the county eventually. They bent over backwards to make it happen to come here to Lynchburg and Bedford County. I get a lot of support back home from my events there, but here they rolled out the southern red carpet for me to come to Lynchburg to bring this event, and they haven't just asked me what I needed, they've just offered up help. So I would not have done it without the city of Lynchburg, and then Bedford County letting us use their beautiful New London track has been amazing as well. And I have to give a big shout out. Obviously, we're using this golf course here that's owned by Chris and his family and Runkin Pratt, and they have been more than accommodating. This golf course is in beautiful shape, not because of me or my staff, but because of their staff.
Nate, thank you so much for your time. Here's a few more questions.
Thank you.
Hey, Nate, thanks for being here today. So it's a unique situation here with the World Championships being held at a property that we haven't seen a relevant volume of higher tier tournaments at. How do you make the case to the PDGA to say, hey, this property is good enough to host the biggest tournament of the year?
No, that's a good question. I would say, I've hosted 17 Elite Series events, and I've hosted 7 PDGA majors, and I think they see that track record. They see my design record, and we did multiple preview events at this course to fine-tune it. I've been here 5 times now. We hosted an event here with pros like Chris Dickerson, Aaron Gossage. So I had enough of a feel, but certainly I used all of those events, and they had that plan. The PDGA knew what my plan was for this property. We've done everything very meticulously. I've been in touch with our meteorologist. I made the OB a little bit tighter than I would have based on the fact that he told me there was a very high chance that the wind would be less than 3 miles an hour all week. And so I was comfortable with the OB being what it was based on his very high assessment. And so far I've been here for 10 days, and today is the windiest it's been, and it hasn't been that bad. So they had the plan, and we followed the plan.
So when you have tournaments and you have players like Chris Dickerson, Aaron Gossage roll through, how much feedback are you taking from them or anybody else in the field and including that in your design?
I'm looking more at the data. So,
Okay.
Someone may say I don't like this hole, someone doesn't like this hole, but I look at the raw data, and then I can take the data from our 990 rated players, our FBO players, and I can reverse engineer what a 1040 rated player should shoot on a normal day. And so certainly the subjective stuff, if someone says that basket's too tough or this hole's too easy, I can feel that out. But I look at the hard data. What's the distance? What's the scoring averages? What was the conditions? Because we have hundreds and hundreds of rounds out here that were sanctioned data that I could use to tweak the layout.
And you answered the question a bit about player feedback with Brian, but I want to touch on it a little bit further. The whole with the FPO division, hole 13. Is it a bad look if we see players just tossing their disc out OB and proceeding to the drop zone? And how much will that, contribute to potentially making a change there?
There won't be any changes there. It's a 264-foot carry. I think the complaints that we saw were from earlier in the week, and we did change it. So we changed it by 25 feet. And so I think the concerns that players are showing were addressed. And I think we're seeing complaints from the past. If you look at Emporia Country Club, that's a 325-foot island, and it's 310 to the front of it. So it's 264 feet to carry it. So I truly think we did take their feedback, and we moved the ropes 25 feet. So I'm not worried about hole 13. If anybody does that, then, they're not going to be competing for a world title is what I would say.
Well, Nate, can you talk about how you determine how many times you're going to play each course? You got 5 rounds to determine the world champion. How do you divvy it up between the wooded course and the golf course?
Really, we had to finish here. New London is a great course, but we can't fit that many spectators there in terms of being able to view the property. And so in this case, when I hosted in 2019, we had Northwood Gold, we had Eureka. We were always going to finish at Eureka for the men and Sunset for the women because it is better for spectators, better for viewing. And New London doesn't have quite the cell signal that we need compared to this property. And so I think both courses are great and they're amazing. And so when it comes down to it, if one course was much better, then that could tilt it. But in this case, with the ability for spectating and all of those things, this was the easy decision.
And speaking of spectators, can you, talk a little bit about what we expect as far as spectators this week?
I think we're going to see a European Open-like crowd on the weekend. So spectator sales are very brisk, well ahead of last year's pace in Vermont. And I love going to Vermont. I think it's just very remote there. I think here we have a great local population. We're close to a lot of places here, Charlotte, D.C., the East Coast. So we're going to see a European Open-like crowd on the weekend.
And how do you, organize or help the spectators figure out where to go? I know you said Vermont's pretty remote, but it feels pretty remote here. I know players were, setting up at 45 minutes to an hour away from the course. Like what things have the tournament done to kind of help the spectator experience in that regard?
Yeah, if you look at just this property, we have, VIP viewing areas and comfort zones. We have ropes all over the course and signage, and we have a tournament app for them, and they've received many emails, and we have shuttles and video boards. So we have hundreds of thousands of dollars of infrastructure we've put in place to make this experience great for them.
And I know that there's been some controversy about the cell phone discussion. Can you kind of expand on that decision and why it's even relevant for the tournament?
Yeah, I would say, DGN had asked if I would limit cell phone usage at New London due to the remote nature of the property there. There's about 6 or 7 holes that don't quite have adequate cell signal for DGN. And so, big events like the Masters do it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. We have a massive video board there. They'll be able to use cell phones here. And so I don't think it's that big of a deal. So.
And speaking of the spectator experience at New London, what is that situation going to be like for them? Are they going to be able to follow players throughout the course, or are there going to be just specific viewing areas set up for them?
Sure. Yeah, we have Bushnell Boulevard just like we do at Champions Cup. So general admission spectators can see about 11 holes on the boulevard. And then we have some VIPs who will be able to follow cards. Even though it's a wooded course, you look at hole 9 and 10, those are... That's 1,900 feet of pretty open area, and so there'll be plenty of opportunities for VIPs to follow the cards there. We have kind of the back 9 has some tighter holes, but there's opportunities there for the VIPs to be watching those players.
Nate, thank you so much, and
Thank you.
Here's Nate Doss.
Yep.
Hey, Nate, good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
everything. As a player, the World Championship is so critical. It's the biggest tournament. Your whole year revolves around it. Now, you just talked about how you've ran so many big tournaments, major championships. In your opinion, what is different about the Worlds? How much more work is it? And also, Why is this tournament so important to the greater disc golf community?
You know, I'll answer the last question first. This is so important because this is the time for disc golfers once a year to be elevated to the grandest stage. They're playing for something that's immortal. You become a world champion, you get your name on a disc, and I think that means so much more to the players. Yes, the USDGC is important, other events are important, but if you ask any player, this is what they want to win, and that makes me as the event director need to elevate our game. And so I think, you know, what makes it so different is the experience that we're providing to the players. They get free food here all week. They get golf carts for practice rounds. The spectators get platforms, and, you know, we have 5 golf cart shuttles for this property just to get people around. And so we're really elevating the experience from that perspective.
Well, Nate, that's my only question. I just want to say, from a player perspective, thank you.
Thank you.
Because I think these players really deserve it, and I think you've done a great job. So,
Thank you.
A couple more questions for you.
Thank you.
Nate, you talked about running 24 Elite Series or majors. What can an area expect in an economic impact from hosting a high-level event like this?
You know, this event here will have a $3.4 million economic impact. So we're bringing not just thousands of people here this week and the players and the media and the spectators, but I have 74 paid staff members. I have 200 volunteers. We're bringing support groups for the players, and so they're staying in hotels, but it's also a permanent thing. They come back. This event will always be, you know, this area will always be known as hosting the 2024 World Championships, and I think people want to come back. They'll want to see the area, play the courses here, and so I think that's a lasting impact that it will have on Lynchburg and Bedford County.
You know, there's been a lot of local media coverage. There's signs throughout town. Someone who has never seen disc golf wants to come out on Sunday. What should they expect to see?
I think they'll be blown away. I think this looks like an elaborate production here. If you walk out to hole 18, hole 1, you're seeing things that maybe you don't normally see at disc golf events. They're going to be able to see players blast drives down hole 1 and see the approach on 18. It's really going to be an amazing experience. This venue is incredible, and I think I'm very excited to crown a world champion here.
It's not easy to win a bid to host this. What does that take, and where do you see this continue to grow to make that even more of a competitive process to host the Worlds?
It's a lot of work, and so I think that we need to see more people bidding on events. I mean, I elevated my game here with this event compared to any of my other events because of what other people have done. I don't think I'm not sure I have an original idea. I think I've stolen every good idea I've ever used, and I think that's okay. I think I want other people to steal my ideas. I texted Jonathan Poole 10 days ago and said, hey, I want to build some platforms like you have on 7 at USDGC. What do you do? And he told me, and I couldn't rent them, so I built them. And so I think you find what works and you take those ideas, and I think that's what other TDs have to do. So if you want to run an event, watch what we do here, and it takes a lot of work, but I'd say, you know, put the effort in, go volunteer, find someone to help, and I think that's how you learn and that's how you do it.
What is your vision for the future of professional disc golf? I mean, this event heads to Europe for the first time ever next year, and then, as we said, it gets more and more competitive to host one of these. What's your vision?
I think we need to see more of what happened here, more of what happened in Estonia, more of what's happening in Europe, and I think elevate the spectator experience. Long term, we may need to reduce what we charge spectators to get more spectators in the door, get more kids watching, and so get more bodies on the ground, and I think that will lead to more sponsors.
All right. Thank you, Nate. We'll be right back.
And now welcoming in our Executive Director of the Professional Disc Golf Association, Doug Bierkus. Doug, thank you for being here, giving us your time. How are you feeling right now?
Good. I just spent a little time getting a tour of the course here at Ivy Hill, and pretty impressed. I'm excited about what's going to happen this week. We're gonna crown 2 champions, and it's always a joy to be a part of that.
You're a part of a lot in regards to disc golf right now, being the Executive Director. Give us maybe a health check on professional disc golf and disc golf in general right now. How are we doing, and how's it looking from your perspective?
You know, I'm very optimistic about disc golf. I've described the last 4 or 5 years as the drunken stupor of the pandemic, followed by the post-pandemic hangover, and now we're kind of coming out of that. And there's some challenges certainly, and I know that that's been felt by pretty much everybody in disc golf. So. Yeah, just kind of figuring out where we need to land with growth and what our expectations are. Really excited to work with the future of our sport, and I'm very optimistic that by making a few changes, you know, whenever you want to grow or get better, you need to make some changes, and there will be changes in the PDGA coming up, and I'm excited about what those changes are going to do to keep the sport sustainable and as healthy as it can be.
Well, you mentioned hangover. I think some people are not used to seeing disc golf, quote unquote, slow down, and maybe there's some pessimism flying around about that. Do you have any words of wisdom or any optimism you can share about people who might feel that way about the sport?
Yeah, you know, certainly we have a lot of challenges right now, as I just talked about with what happened with the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic. And then, of course, our economy in general isn't as good as it has been in the past. Of course, that's always cyclical. So I think our sport is too great and too awesome and has too many amazing benefits that it's in a position to weather whatever storm we have. And when I say storm, again, I'm really optimistic. I think the best thing I can say is that we will probably look back at the last 5 years, 7 years if we extend forward 2 years from now, and we're probably going to land somewhere where we would have landed without the pandemic. So our sport has experienced, we turn 50, the PDGA turns 50 years old next year, and we have had some phenomenal year after year double-digit growth, which has caused our sport to go from where the folks that started it 50 years ago to where it is today. But we just had a very fast acceleration, and a lot of the folks that came to know our sport during the pandemic, it was the perfect thing to fill the void for the recreational activities that maybe they weren't able to do during the pandemic. And it's just natural that folks are going to go back to that. So yeah, it's we're going to be just fine. Disc golf is in a good spot. We just have to kind of adjust.
If you take all of the current circumstances out of it, you take the economy, like you said, out of it, what is your vision for where disc golf in general goes in the future? As an executive director, what do you dream of?
Wow, that's a great question, and I've been asked that a lot. I dream of a day where, and by the way, we're closer to it now than we've ever been, where you don't have to explain disc golf to somebody. Now, again, I can't tell you, 10 years ago, it was like, well, have you ever seen those things in the park with the chains hanging in them? Well, you throw Frisbees into them, and you don't grill chickens in them. But, that's what they're for, and that's disc golf. A lot more people know what it is. I just hope there's a day where everyone gets to experience some sort of disc golf, much like ball golf. Most people have experienced it. It may not be traditional ball golf. It may be putt-putt or something like that. But I would love to see the sport where every human being gets their hands on a disc at some point in their life and gets to experience throwing it through the air, seeing it fly, seeing what it can do, and then also that glorious sound of that disc hitting the chains. So how we get there, there's all kinds of paths that we can take, and the PDGA is exploring a lot of those. I know that an event like this that showcases the sport is certainly one of those things that helps us get to that end game, which that would be my dream.
Well, let's zoom in on this week. Obviously, huge event here in Lynchburg. First time we've had a major here in Lynchburg. Can you talk about maybe your relationship with people here and what your thoughts are on this place?
Yeah, I love this town, and it's been about 35 years since I was here. I actually played a lacrosse game in Lynchburg when I was in college, and that goes back to, I don't even know if there was color video back then. There was, but yeah, the town has changed quite a bit, and it's a unique size. Having a long experience in a town called Emporia, Kansas, where the population was about 25,000. Lynchburg is about 3 times that size in the city itself. It's got a little bigger of a surrounding community, but the town I live in now, Augusta, it's about 1/3 of that size. So each town that I've been in hasn't been a huge city. Well, when I was in Denver, that was a huge city, but it's the right size to really where disc golf can have an impact on it. And when you have a community like that, where bringing people to town like this really does make a difference, it's exciting. And the support that this community has given to this event is top notch. And yeah, I've been here for one day, and I feel at home. So that's always exciting.
After all your experience in disc golf and traveling so much for disc golf, is there a rhyme or reason to where disc golf hotbeds pop up?
I think it starts with people. We can say it's courses, we can say it's, oh, there's a disc golf company there or whatever. But if you have good people that are at the core of it, that are committed to growing the sport and are passionate about it, I think that's the start of a hotbed. I do honestly believe that the size of the community does make a big difference. The impact that disc golf can have on a town of 80,000 is far greater than the impact it can have on a town of 2 million. Real estate's a big part of our sport as well, and the bigger of a city you get to, the more expensive it is to get land. And we're not pickleball, where we need a little small postage stamp of a footprint. We need a little larger footprint to put a course in. And so I don't know. The towns that I've seen that have really done some magical things, it always starts with the people. And then I do think that a smaller town has a much better opportunity for success. Not that it can't be a Charlotte, which has by default become a hotbed of disc golf as well. So
I got one last question before I hand off the microphone. It seems like every 4 years with the Olympics coming, you hear so many people say, why is this in the Olympics and disc golf is not in the Olympics? From your perspective, what's the reality behind that?
That's a great question, and a lot of people, like you said, every 4 years this seems to come up. And my big question this year was breakdancing, really, and not disc golf. But it takes a lot of work, and our friends over at WIFDIF are kind of leading the charge with going through the steps to get our sport into the Olympics. And of course, they represent all of the disc sports. So I think we're getting closer, but it's like anything. It's not going to happen overnight, and we just need to focus on continue growing our sport. And it'll be a lot easier to become an Olympic sport if they were to reach out to us and say, hey, do you want to be in the Olympics, as opposed to us pushing the envelope. And we become a much more attractive draw, just the more people that are playing and the more countries where we're playing disc golf. And it's super exciting to see just the international growth in our sport, which is super critical in that endeavor to become an Olympic sport.
Doug, thank you so much for your time. Here's a few more questions.
Hey, Doug, it's Nate Perkins with the Disc Golf Network.
Nate, how are you doing?
Doing fantastic.
Good.
Enjoying the humidity. I just came from the high desert out west, so
yeah.
Feels good.
Yeah.
Doug, how important does the PDGA view the professional scene of disc golf for the growth of the rest of the sport?
That's a great question. It is important. It certainly isn't the only thing that's important. I think you grow a sport through having a top tier of competition that people can aspire to, or they can go, wow, I want to be there. And I think there's lots of young kids that are putting in their backyard going, I want to be the next Paul Macbeth, or I want to be the next, Katrina Allen, or whatever it may be. So it is important. But as important, and probably a little more important, is what I was talking about a little earlier, just getting discs into the hands of people, having local clubs grow, having TDs that are willing to run, 6 C tiers, 2 B tiers, and an A tier every year. That is as important as this top level of disc golf. So it all needs to work together, and one of the challenges we have at the PDGA is finding a way to balance all that, and how much effort and energy and support we give to each of those levels. But I would say, disc golf in clubs, in communities, disc golf in schools, getting TDs better prepared, maybe better rewarded and compensated at the lower levels. You can just keep going up that ladder all the way until you get to things like our majors, especially for the FPO and MPO. So I guess I'm not answering your question completely, but it's all important.
You answered it perfectly. So I want you to help me unpack the role that the PDGA plays in the World Championships. You have the bid process determined. How big of a role does the PDGA play in further determining like the quality of the 18 holes on each course? And do you just leave that up to Nate Heinold and the rest of the crew here, or some of the employees of the PDGA making decisions about hole changes?
Yeah, that's a great question. And when we run a professional world championship like this as the PDGA, we do depend heavily on the LOC. This year it's Nate and it's the community of Lynchburg. Last year it was Jeff Spring and Vermont. The year before that it was actually Emporia, and I was a part of that. So we, as the PDGA, we need to trust and empower those folks that are on the ground putting the event together. But then we also do go through a series of checks. I mean, I know there have been meetings with Nate on a monthly basis for probably 18 months prior to this event to about 6 months. Then those meetings go to weekly, and we're going through checklists, and we're asking questions about everything, not just from the course, but got water squared away? Do you have porta potty squared away? Do you have parking squared away? Do you have a spectator plan in place? So we basically will look at that, and there are times where we'll step in and go, hey, we don't think this is good, and there will be a conversation about it, and oftentimes the LOC will change something based on our suggestions, and oftentimes we'll hear a reason we weren't thinking about, and we'll go, yeah, that now makes a lot of sense. So at the end of the day, we get bids, which, by the way, that process is going on right now. If any of the people that are listening are interested in their communities making a bid for a major championship like this one, the deadline is October 1st. Go check out pdga.com for information on those bids. But we'll get the bids. We'll see what kind of support the community is giving. We'll see what the experience is of the team that's going to run the event. We'll look at the quality of the courses. We're also extending the time that we're putting between the bid and the actual event. So this year we're taking bids for both 26 and 27 because we want to get 30 months out in front of these instead of 18 months so that we do have more time to accurately assess courses. And as you know, Nate, there's a lot of courses that are ideas when the bids are granted, and they get built, sometimes just in time, and we're trying to avoid that too. Our sport's getting too mature to have this just in time mentality. So I think you'll see more of a defined process as we get more time to make the decisions as to whether holes are. And again, to answer your question specifically, I've been in meetings over the last year where we have said we need to change that hole. Yeah. And there have been times where we've said that, and we've also heard another argument, as I mentioned, and we don't. So I think they've got it pretty dialed in here this week for this one.
Well, it kind of leads me into my next question. When the players show up here a couple weeks leading up to the tournament, and you start receiving their feedback, and there's a lot of pressure about specific holes. Hey, this green is too small, this landing zone is too far away. What's the channel that the PDGA receives that player feedback? And then once you receive it, who has the power there? Is the PDGA able to say, hey, we're getting too much feedback about this hole, we need to change it? Or once the bid is accepted, is that power now in the hands of the local crew?
That's a great question, and I know there have been a few cases just this week that have come up regarding some players that may or may not be happy with certain holes. If we listen to, and we listen to everything. And by the way, the channels that comes through, we sometimes will get emails. Sometimes social media has a lot of that feedback on it. Typically, it goes to the LOC first, and again, we're working hand in hand with the with the LOC. The PDGA is, so we're doing our best to look at those things and see if there is some merit. We are in a tough spot though because the event, you've got to figure out all the holes. You got to get the tee signs done. You've got to get the caddy books together, the digital maps, all of that, and in the busy day-to-day of everyone's life, sometimes the last time you do get feedback is right towards the end, and that's when it's the most difficult to change. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, we don't necessarily have a, okay, it goes to this person, then this person, then this person, but we do try to work with the team, and we've had several. In fact, I had a conversation. I went out and looked at a hole here on this course, in particular, hole 13, that had some questions about a carry, that, would that be an appropriate carry for the field that's playing that hole? And I was involved in looking at that. So we all kind of try to do our best to take the information that's shared with us and then make the best decision. It's not always black and white, though.
Yep. Well, as the executive director, once the tournament starts, what does your role look like? It must be hard to, put out all the fires at once.
Well, today I went over to the check-in station and I heard someone dropped, and I asked if I could play, but that didn't get very far. So, no, my role at Majors this year, in my first year as the executive director, is I try to make sure that I participate in the opening ceremonies, so I'll be a part of that tonight. And then I try to spend as much time on the courses on the weekend, just seeing what's going on and meeting members when I do get a chance to meet PDGA members, and love to talk to them, love to listen to the ideas they have. And at an event like this, there's a lot of them here as spectators. So pretty much opening ceremonies, I'll be an active part of that. And then on the weekend, I'll be out on the courses. But between the opening ceremony and the weekend, I've got a lot of other things that I need to take care of. So I usually will spend time working between those bookends of a tournament like this.
Doug, thank you so much. Here's Hayden with the PDGA.
Hey, Doug, just one question. We're set for a great week, and you mentioned the opening ceremonies tonight. We'll hear the Star Spangled Banner tonight. Next year, we're going to hear a European national anthem at Pro Worlds. What does that mean for the sport around the globe?
Man, you get me excited here, and I'm sure I've already taken up too much time, but to see what's going to happen in Finland, I can't wait. We've had a pretty interesting track record this year. We had 19 countries represented at Junior Worlds. We had 16 countries represented at Am Worlds. Now, a little drop off here. We have 11 countries for Pro Worlds, but I am guessing that next year in Finland, it wouldn't shock me to see 25, 30 countries represented at that World Championship. And I think that, I was asked a question earlier about the Olympics. I just think the growth of our sport internationally is so exciting, and the fact that we're going to have a World Championship in Finland. In fact, UC and his crew are coming out to this event to kind of check things out. We've got Matej and Calixto from PDGA Europe that are here working this event so they can be better prepared for next year. It is going to be special.
Thank you, Doug. We'll be right back.
All right, folks, welcome back. And joining us now, our world champion, Kristen Tatar. Kristen, you made the trip back over here. How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling very well. I'm just happy to be back on the course and coming off from some beautiful memories from back home that we made with Silver, getting married. So, yeah, I'm feeling very, very excited and very, very good. At peace.
A perfect time to feel peace with the World Championships just around the corner. You're going for your third, and you join a very exclusive club. Val Jenkins, Elaine King, Juliana Korver. If you can do the three-peat, what would that mean to you?
It's hard to say even. It would mean a lot, obviously. But I know there's a lot of women out there who are chasing their first title or their next title. And these courses are super, super challenging. I try not to have very, very high expectations. I just try to be very focused. I know I can execute very well on both courses probably. So I just have to be in my center, trust my game, and stay focused and not think about results, because I think this could be the downfall.
True. Well, let's zoom in the present then. Let's talk about the two courses that we're playing this week. You just told me, and kind of your eyes opened a little bit when you said New London was a great course. Mm-hmm. Talk about the lines out there, and did the game plan come easy out there?
Yes. I do love New London. I think it's a course that really reminds me the courses we have back home, and where I feel very comfortable and I know how my discs behave. And yeah, it was really easy to build a game plan. I just need to execute out there. We played only one practice round before the doubles with Silver, and we were just playing super well on Saturday, so that was definitely a confidence booster. Yeah, I think it's a great course.
When you're playing doubles with Silver, do you play a game plan that only focuses on the victory, or do you throw some aggressive lines to experiment? Like, what is that like?
It depends on the situation. We've known each other for years, and we know how we play. I know how I play and what's his strategies on the course, and we just sometimes look each other in the eye and then already know what to do. Should we be aggressive or should we be more conservative? And it just depends on the situation. But yeah, everything was just working super well. We didn't really have to make any hard decisions out there on the course. Everything was very smooth, and maybe it was a little tougher during the alternative shot. It was so hot and humid out there, so coming from Estonia, it was a little bit hard to adjust. But other than that, I feel like the game was working very well.
Just so people who maybe haven't seen New London get a better idea of how it's played, what percentage of forehand versus backhand are you throwing out there? Do you lean more one way or the other?
I think I'm leaning more on the backhand. I'm throwing my St. Pros there a lot. I feel like it's the perfect disc for those straight tunnel shots, and I feel like I'm just more comfortable with it. But there are a few forehand holes as well, and obviously in the woods you probably have to scramble, so I'm just happy I have them both.
Well, let's zoom in here. We're at Ivy Hill, which is beautiful property, mountains in the background. Some people feel one way or the other about disc golf on a golf course, but talk about this place from a design standpoint and what you like or dislike about it.
Definitely a very challenging course here. I think probably one of the hardest FBO layouts we have played, just because of the distances and the OBs, which are near the baskets. Like, for example, on hole 12, I think it's like 155 or something downhill. It's for me, it's basically a max distance shot. I was like 5 meters away from basket, then 6 meters away from basket, then both were OB, and that leaves me to the drop zone. So it definitely requires a lot of control of the speed and the disc angle you throw it on. So yeah, I feel like birdies are very gettable if I stay in bounds, but I could also bogey or double bogey here. So this course is definitely where I try not to think about the score, just accept what comes. And I don't really, it's really hard to know what a good score would look like on this course, but I think it would be more predictable in New London. Yeah.
Your strategy out here, maybe it's still developing, but when you step up to some of these holes, are there holes where you tell yourself not even to try for a birdie?
Not from the tee. I think, yeah, well, actually, there's one hole 17, where I just go for the par. I will lay up and then go over the water because I don't think it's worth the risk. The OB behind the basket is so close, so even if I clear the water and miss all the trees, then I might still end up in the OB. So this is, I think, probably the only hole where I play for par. I think everything else it just depends where my tee shots are landing and what's the wind situation, because we played it in quite calm conditions, but once the wind picks up, I think it's a totally different game out here.
I have one last hole-specific question. There's been a lot of chatter about hole 13. Some players are saying strategy-wise they're just dropping the disc in front of the tee pad, out of bounds, going to the drop zone. Are you doing something like that, or are you going for the landing zone off the tee?
I can clear the OB. I just, I think it's a very challenging hole for some FBO. As I heard, it's unreachable. So, yeah. Thankfully, I'm not the course designer, but it's one of the toughest, probably, tee shot wise, and then I think the approach shot will be tricky as well because of the low ceiling. So yeah, I'm interested how it all plays out.
Kristen, thank you so much for your time. Here's a few more questions.
Hey, Kristen. Nate Perkins with the Disc Golf Network. Congratulations on your wedding.
Thank you.
I want to bear with me on this hypothetical here. So, world champion disc golfer, they marry someone who doesn't play disc golf. They're just going to get grilled with questions at the wedding all day about what the sport is. But you married a disc golfer. Is there anyone in your family or Silver's family that doesn't know what the sport is? And were you getting asked questions, or everybody at that wedding knows exactly what disc golf is?
That's an easy answer, no. Everybody knows what disc golf is, at least in our families. So we had no explaining to do. Everybody knows what we're doing, and they're very supportive and cheering us on all the time. So we're very, very grateful we didn't have to do anything like that.
Yeah. Well, how much does the family know about the World Championships that was coming up, and how much were you asked about the tournament, how you're feeling about it?
Not really. I mean, during not even only the wedding day, but the wedding week, our thoughts were just solely on what was about to happen, and it was such a beautiful day, something I have never experienced, like the wave of emotions that I felt inside. I have never experienced, not even when I was winning my first world title, which was very jittery. So it was a great day, and we were just focused on celebrating love and being amongst our friends and family, and no disc golf talk really. We did do our first throws as husband and wife, but that was about it.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me into my next question, which you might have already answered, but when you're going about your everyday life, how much does the sport of disc golf find its way into your thoughts?
I think I've just learned to manage it over the years. I know even last year during some of the majors, I wasn't able to sleep at all because I was so anxious. And right now I'm thinking, how was I able to do this? Because it seems impossible to be so anxious and just worrying about the future, even though I know I shouldn't do it and I'm telling myself not to do it. But I think this year I'm already better at it and I've been sleeping super well. Hopefully I can do this during the competition as well. But as time goes on, I feel like I'm more calm, more at ease, more confident about me as a person, not only as a disc golfer. And hopefully this helps on the course as well. So yeah, I'm trying to think about disc golf when I'm at the course, and when I'm having free time, I'm focusing on what's at hand.
Well, Kristen, you've talked about how the majors have given you anxiety in the past. This is, the biggest tournament of the year. You're trying to go for the three-peat. How much has the anxiety showed up in the weeks leading up to this event?
It hasn't yet. I don't know what will happen tomorrow or even during this night or evening. But as I said, I've been sleeping very well, and I'm just excited to be here, to have this opportunity to live my dream life, play disc golf, and I've been playing quite well during the practice rounds. I think my discs are working well. I'm able to trust them here. So it's just a matter of me executing my shots, focusing on what I'm able to do and not think about what I can't do. And the rest is not in my hands anymore.
Well, you've played both courses. When you think about this tournament, which course makes you more nervous, if at all?
Oh, Ivy Hill, for sure. There's just so much that can happen here. Again, trying not to think about what can go wrong, but just seeing how some of the discs are skipping out here, or how close the OBs are. It's tough for sure. But at the same time, I'm just excited to see how the world's best players do out here, because this is the biggest tournament of the year, so it's okay to play tough courses.
Well, Kristen, you've talked in the past about how you do your best to not think about your competitors. You just mentioned the world's best out here. When you play these courses, which player in your division comes to mind that you think can play it well?
Oh my gosh, there are so many. I don't want to pick specific names.
No one comes to mind.
No, not that. There's just many girls I feel like who can win, who have the required skill set, and yeah. So I'm just happy to go into comparison with them and see who will be the best one this week.
Kristen, thank you so much. Here's Hayden with the PDGA.
Hey, Kristen. Two obviously very difficult courses. Where would you rank them in terms of difficulty as far as like a 1-2 punch, for a world championship or for any event that you've ever played?
I would, I'm thinking about maybe European Open, where we played Tampere and Nokia. New London definitely reminds me a little bit Tampere course, and this one is a little bit more maybe difficult than Nokia, but it reminds me of the same type of course. So maybe the mixture of both courses and the European Open comes to mind. Yeah, so definitely one of the harder courses.
The champions will be crowned right behind you on Sunday. What will those two players have accomplished through 5 rounds to earn that title out on the course?
Whew. They have probably maintained their focus regardless of what's been going on the course, because we will all have our ups and downs probably. And I think both of them are probably hungry for a title.
I'm going to backtrack a little bit to the European Disc Golf Festival, which will be a major next year. What was it like, just seeing that happen in Estonia and hearing all the great feedback about it, and already being elevated to a major with plans for more?
Yeah, it was amazing. Everything the organizers had done for the players and for the crowd was amazing. Something I haven't really experienced during disc golf tournament, and I'm very confident they can do a good job in the major next year as well. Even though I wasn't really playing that well during the tournament, I felt the support and the love from the home crowd, so it was a very special week for everybody in Estonia. There were so many fans.
Tonight at the players' meeting, we'll hear the Star Spangled Banner. Next year, we'll hear a European national anthem for the first time ever. What does that mean that Pro Worlds is heading to Europe next year?
It's a huge step forward for disc golf. I think we've all been waiting for Worlds to travel outside the U.S. I think all the European players are just excited that World Championships are close to their home, and I think it will give an opportunity to some of the players to take part who haven't been able to make the trip over here. So we will definitely see a lot more flags represented during the opening ceremony.
Jefferson from the Disc Golf World here. I just got one question for you. This has got to be one of, if not the most stressful weeks of the year. How do you manage to break away from the seriousness and still have fun out there?
It's just me trying to stay connected to myself, to my true identity, and not to only think about myself as a disc golfer or try to tie my result to self-worth or anything like that, something I've done in the past, which is very hard to go through. So yeah, just like I mentioned before, staying in the moment, just being very grateful of being able to do this and being able to play disc golf as a professional and do this as a job. Something I didn't think would happen 10 years ago, but now I'm here in this moment, so I'm just trying to soak it all in, and this is definitely something that helps me get through it.
Thank you very much, and we will be right back for some more questions.
Thank you.
All right, welcome back, folks. And now joining us, our reigning world champion, Isaac Robinson. Isaac, after your win last year, you wrote, "Never in a million years that I think I'd be standing where I was yesterday, and never in a million years will I forget a single second." It was a phenomenal year for you last year, and the World's win just capped off such a nice stretch of tournaments. Reflect on that. Reflect on that moment when you were crowned world champion. We're back here again. You can defend.
Man, I mean, this whole week has just kind of been reliving those memories. And even like walking up the hill on 18 at Ivy, just envisioning like the crowd like it was last year. It's going to be so sick this year. And just really trying to recreate those feelings, kind of recreate those moments on the course last year, and trying to bring everything I got into this week.
When you got to Vermont, going for your first world title, you had already won a major championship that year.
Mm-hmm.
But when you were going for your second, did you go into it saying, "I'm the world champion," or did you go into it with no expectations? What was your mindset like that week when you were preparing?
Really no expectations, just trying to play my best and play against the course. And just for this whole week, you really have to be almost emotionless. Like, you have to shut off all the feelings. I said something like this last year, but you can't think of how it affects your life if you win this tournament. You really just have to put your head down, and you have to get the work done. And then once that last putt drops, that's when you can celebrate, and that's when you can just embrace all the moments that led to that.
After all these titles that you've taken down, you were in the mix for Player of the Year with Calvin. Is it hard to keep the expectations low?
Yes, it is a little bit. This year has been a real up and down year, and so I feel like my expectations have kind of been all over the place. Kind of a rough start to the year. Didn't feel like I was playing well up until maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, and so my expectations, like I said, have been all over the place. And going into this week, though, I think I expect to have a shot, and that's my goal, is to have a shot coming down the stretch, be in the mix on the final day, and I think that's all that you can ask for out here.
Talk about the courses. Zoom in on Ivy Hill, zoom in on New London. It seems like New London is right up your alley, but
Yes.
What is Ivy Hill like for you?
So first impressions, the first practice round, I was not a fan. I did not like the course. It just seemed really long, and some of the OBs seemed a little sketchy. But after playing it, I think I've played it 4 or 5 times at this point, and I'm a huge fan now. There's very specific landing zones that you have to hit. Shots you have to be very careful. A lot of scary shots. And I think there's 3 holes that are a bit too hard, where most of the field is going to take par. But with the exception of 2 or 3 holes, I think this place is amazing. And I think from a spectator point of view, and even from a player's point of view, everything is just beautiful out here.
Nate Heinold said that when he finished designing this course, to kind of look back at it, he said it feels like a course you have to spend time on and learn. Did the game plan come easy for you, or have you kind of refined it over these 4 or 5 practice rounds?
Definitely refined it. I feel very confident with my disc selection off the tee. If the wind gets crazy, that'll probably change a little bit. But after the first 2 rounds, I really the next couple rounds I played were just kind of dialing in the angles and where you want to hit and the aiming points. But yeah, I think the shot selection is feeling great, and the course is feeling really good.
A lot of people are comparing this to toboggan. I think they're trying to grasp at the one course that has the big, giant downhill shots. It seems like the OB on this course is tighter.
Yes.
Are the downhill shots still fun, even with the OB?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said, there's very specific landing zones. So if you want to get big and you want to throw that crazy shot, there's an opportunity for that. But you have to be very careful. So I think most players are just going to try to hit the landing zones, and this is playing very much like USDGC with all the OB. So if you can keep it in bounds and avoid the bogeys, you're going to be shooting well.
We were interviewing Paul Macbeth, and he said out here, his distance is not allowing him to get to some of the landing zones he'd like to. but he strategizes around it by throwing something slower and then throwing the fast disc on the second shot.
Yeah.
What is that mix-up like for you? Do you throw a lot of putters and mids off the tee and then follow up with a distance driver?
Yes. Pretty much the whole. I'm throwing a lot of fairway drivers and a lot of mids off the tee, but there's a couple holes where I'm just laying up for par. So I think like 16 and hole 5, and hole I think it's 14. All of those will just be playing to the center cut of the fairway, and then try my best to get a par from there.
Let's go to the course that I think everyone in the disc golf world says is right up your alley, New London. I think people are drawing some comparisons to maybe some European courses and also W.R. Jackson with the width of the fairways.
Yes.
Talk about it from your perspective and how's it been?
Easily one of my top 5 favorite courses. Very reminiscent of Jackson. I miss that place. But the fairways are just so cool. Once you hit them, there's nothing in the way. So if you stay in the fairway, you're going to have a good look at the basket. And I think that's what makes a really good course. We see that in Europe. We see that in a couple courses around the country. But if you're off the fairway, that's where it gets punishing. And so my game plan out there is very simple. It's just stay in the fairway. And if I get off the fairway, just get back to the fairway at all costs. So I love that place a lot.
I think when anyone, whether a player or a fan of disc golf, hears that Paul McBeth designed a wooded course, they're thinking it's really high-level shot shaping, very meticulously lined fairways. Did he do a good job at fulfilling that expectation?
I think so. Absolutely.
What kind of shots are you leaning on with the backhand? I mean, you're not throwing any forehands off the tee, I'm assuming.
No. A lot of mids and a lot of putters. That's right up my alley. And it's such a neat course because kind of right in the middle there, you have the shots where you need to go big and you pull out the distance driver. But every shot after that, you're just playing for the middle. And so whatever discs that I'm feeling confident will get me to the middle of the fairway, those are the shots I'm going to be throwing. I'm going to be throwing my M1, PA3s, a whole lot out there.
Are you able to get away with like just a stock straight shot, or is there a lot of controlling the last bit of the flight out there?
I think you can get away with a straight shot or a flip up that kind of glides. A lot of times you're just throwing straight, which is really nice.
You looked at me at the Portland Open earlier this year and you said, Brian, I feel like I've been a little bit lazy this part of the season. And it seems like right after that you snapped back and you started putting up some good performances. Has anything actually changed, or is it just a mindset?
I think a lot of it is a mindset, honestly. There's just something about, I feel like I know how to play the game of disc golf. At the beginning of the season, I don't know what it was, but I just forgot how to play and was going for some dumb shots, and mental game wasn't there. And right around Portland is kind of when everything kind of clicks back into place. And so I'm not taking nearly as many bogeys, and I just feel like I know how to play the game again.
Isaac, thank you so much for your time. Here's Nate.
Nate Perkins with the DGN. Good to see you, Isaac. And, man, we saw you show up at Idlewild.
Yeah.
I feel like the first time I've seen you back in that groove. Talk about, what were you, 8 down through 12, that final round? Talk about the groove that you did find.
Yeah, it was, I just felt in control of every shot. There were no nerves. There was no excitement, really. I knew I was shooting well. And, everything was just clicking. It felt like last year where everything was just firing on all cylinders, and I was hitting the lines that I was supposed to.
And then, boom, double bogey. Can you talk about what the feeling is like? Is there any difference? Are you able to kind of key in on, hey, I'm in the zone, and then all of a sudden, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm bogeying holes.
Yeah. It was so weird because I noticed I was pulling shots on 11, got a little lucky through the trees. 12 also got away with one. And so on 13, I was just like, well, don't pull this shot. And sure enough, that's exactly what I did. And cost me, got a triple there, and then followed it up with a bogey and then a double. And so I really it was a good learning experience coming into this week, because I've never been in that situation where I feel like I've choked the lead. At the Preserve this year, there's a little hint of that, but Idlewild last week, I just straight up choked the lead and lost the tournament. And so it was a really good experience for me. I think I learned a lot coming into Worlds this week.
Well, that's exactly my next question. You know, you've got a 7.5-hour drive.
Mm-hmm.
You're in your van. You're cruising through the windy roads. You like get up onto the Blue Ridge Parkway. You're driving. What are you thinking about? Are you thinking about Idlewild at all, or are you thinking about these new courses?
Yeah, I was thinking a lot about it. It took me a couple days to kind of not get, get over being mad at what happened. And so, yeah, I thought about it. And I thought, what did I do wrong? And what do I do to fix that next time? Because this is the week that counts. And so really just figuring out what I did wrong and not doing that again.
When you finish a tournament and you see that your brother scooped you again, does he let you know?
Oh yeah. I think he felt a little bad for me at Idlewild, so
Yeah.
it wasn't the first topic of conversation.
He didn't step on you.
No, which is nice, but he certainly lets me know.
Well, I know that you roll with a pretty prestigious group of disc golfers. Have you been practicing with them this week?
Mm-hmm.
And is your brother included in that list?
Yes, we've been. I think Ganon and I have played more rounds than we've played in a long time together. Just kind of us two. We played one-shot tournament rounds out at New London, and we put $5 on the line, and so it creates kind of that competition aspect of the game. And Ganon's somebody I fully expect to be competing with at the top this week. So it was kind of nice to get a feel for it earlier in the week.
Well, I think Ganon's at the top of everyone's list right now. What do you need to do to kind of push him this week, especially at a course like Ivy Hill?
Yeah, I think just play in bounds. And distance, it's an advantage, but it's not an overwhelming advantage. I think being accurate out at Ivy really goes a long way. And so really just staying in bounds, and if he tries to go for a shot that's a little bigger, then not even worrying about that, just sticking to my game plan and staying in bounds.
Well, are you ever stepping outside of your comfort zone to try and get to a landing zone on a hole? You mentioned that you think 2 or 3 holes, a lot of people are going to be playing for par.
Yeah, I think it's very situation dependent. If I need to make a push and I need to birdie the last 3 to have a shot, then I'll probably go for some shots. But overall, just sticking to my game plan and doing what I do best and not stepping outside my boundaries.
So a lot of full speed drives out here at Ivy Hill, and then you mentioned to Brian you're going mid and putter out at New London. Is that a tough adjustment to make, to go back and forth day to day from throwing high speed shots to throwing slow speed shots?
Not really, I don't think. Yeah,
You don't change much mechanically?
not really. No.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, Isaac, thank you so much. And here's Hayden with the PDGA.
Thanks, Nate.
Yeah, Isaac, how much of a grind is it going to be this week between these two courses?
It's gonna be a lot of walking. Ivy Hill is very similar to Toboggan, I think, except more walking. So,
Have you practiced walking, or you've been in the cart the whole time?
I played a skins match, and we didn't have carts for that one. So got one walking round in, and thankfully we've had carts the rest of the week.
But was that walking like kind of an eye opener? But better be prepared for this a little bit.
Definitely. I will say it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be.
Right.
So
I mean, just the 1-2 punch of these courses and the difficulty and the stamina that's going to take and the focus. What will that champion have accomplished on Sunday? On the course, mentally, physically.
yeah, I think you just got to be in control of your body. It's going to be a mental and a physical toll, and kind of those together will get you a little shaky. So really taking your time and calming the nerves, and just when you get a chance to sit down, drink lots of water, and just try to stay present in the moment. And I think that's what it'll take.
You've been announced as a world champion on the first tee of every tournament you've played. What makes the first tee of a world championship different than any other week?
I think this week, being the defending champion, is something I've thought a lot about. And so hearing that announcement is going to be... I'm going to be a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be a fun tee-off, though.
All right, thanks, Isaac. We'll be right back.
Welcome back and welcoming in Holland Hanley. Holland, welcome to Virginia. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Thank you.
I think there's a lot of people saying as of late that you are the big challenger to Kristen Tatar this week. What are your expectations like going into the tournament, and how do you feel about these courses?
I'm trying to have really no expectations going into the tournament. My game feels really good, so my only goal is to just stick within myself and go one shot at a time. And if I give it my best effort this week, I'll be happy with it. And as for the courses, I love the courses. New London is really cool. So it's technical, but very fair. Some opportunities for eagles, very scoreable, but if you get off your line, definitely punishing. Ivy Hill is giving me some Goat Hill vibes from Oceanside, California. So that was one of my favorite courses to compete on back when I lived there. So super excited to play that one. It's going to be some tight OB for sure.
Well, let's zoom in on the first one that you were talking about, New London. A lot of players saying they really love that course. Mm-hmm. It seems like you kind of have to have both forehand and backhand to score consistently, unless you're a real specialist. What percentage of forehand to backhand are you throwing out there?
Mostly backhand. There's kind of, I think, one hole where I'm throwing a forehand off the tee. There will be times where I'm sure I'll use it for scrambling and for some upshots, but I find I'm very backhand heavy there.
You told me at Ledgestone that you were throwing a lot more backhand, especially from the approach side, because of your arm. You were saying you're having some elbow problems, I believe. How is that going?
It's been great, actually. I made a little adjustment. I've been throwing my approach shots especially, so I'm kind of down-tempoing my whole body instead of just using my arm, which is what I normally do, to take some power off, and that's been really helping, and I've had no issues this week.
How much practice in that down-tempoing did you have to put in to get the timing right, or was it pretty natural?
It wasn't too hard. I think I probably had 3 or 4 hour-long sessions since the end of Idlewild to now, and I had one just this morning, and everything was feeling really good.
I know a lot of the best players in the game, maybe including yourself, like to look at tournaments like this and say, I'm not going to treat it like it's on this pedestal, I'm going to treat it like any other tournament. Is that how you treat this, or does something extra special go into the way you prepare for the Worlds?
No, I prepare the exact same way I do for everything, and I play better when I'm relaxed and just having fun, and so putting a tournament up on the pedestal is kind of the opposite of that. So yeah, I'm just going to be trying to enjoy myself.
Let's look at these two courses then. What is fun about maybe something at New London that you like and something here at Ivy Hill that you like?
Yeah, I feel like New London has me throwing almost every disc in my bag, almost every shot shape. You need almost every shot shape to do well out there, so that's been really fun to kind of get creative with the lines. And then, Ivy Hill, it's fun to bomb a disc downhill. And then, feeling a little nostalgic for that Goat Hill style of course. That one, it's just going to be, expect to go OB a few times and be okay with it.
I want to zoom in on Ivy Hill. There's a lot of talk about the course. There's a lot of talk about the design and how hilly this place is and where the OB is. Have you heard any of the chatter about the course design? And is there anything that you feel about specific holes or design elements out here?
Oh yeah, there's been a lot of chatter. I think a lot of people feel like it unfairly favors the long distance throwers, and there are definitely some holes where I think if we end up with a little bit of wind or a little bit of wet tee pads, there are going to be players who just straight up can't carry the OB. And I do think I think both courses a little bit favor longer throwers. And then, on the physical side of things, it's a hike. It's probably we usually think of the toboggan as our biggest hike of a course, and I think this rivals it for sure. So I think that's good though. I think Worlds shouldn't just be a test of your skills. It should be a test of your fitness and your mental fortitude and just your grit. And so I think it's actually a great course to have Worlds at.
Well, I know that you in the past have done a lot of lifting even during the season. Mm-hmm. How is your conditioning right now, and how are you holding up out there at Ivy Hill?
Pretty good. I mean, I took advantage of the golf carts all week. I walked a little bit of it yesterday because I came out just to play a couple of holes and the golf carts were all gone. But having a caddy is going to help. I won't have to carry my own bag. I just have to be able to walk the course. This is why I keep up my fitness all year and I continue going to the gym, is so that when I'm surprised with a really hard hike of a course, it's not too bad. It doesn't really impact my game.
Are you lifting heavy during the season, or does that change?
Not very heavy. I'm more concerned with kind of maintaining things and then keeping the kind of problem areas healthy. So my elbow, keeping that healthy, keeping my knees healthy, keeping my back healthy. And then the off seasons when I kind of try to push the numbers a little bit more, because I don't want to be too stiff or sore during the week, that it affects my timing. But a lot of times I'll kind of have the harder workouts at the beginning of the week and kind of taper things off, and the result is usually the first day of the tournament I feel really good. So.
What is Tyler's role at the World Championship? He caddies for you. How involved of a caddy is Tyler at these big events?
It usually depends. Like, he does a very good job, I think, of knowing when to say something and when not to say something. So obviously carrying my bag is huge. I think that adds distance, and it allows me to like not run out of steam by the end of the round. But he knows kind of when I'm doing good and to just like not say anything about disc golf and just chat, about other stuff. And then he does a good job of kind of noticing if I'm getting ahead of myself, if I'm rushing, or if I'm starting to lose confidence, and saying something to kind of help get me back to where I need to be. Like at Des Moines, I think there was one spot where I looked like I was about to just rush a shot because something had kind of gotten into my head, and he was like, "Hey, just slow down," and like it helped. So he does a good job of that.
Holland, thank you so much for your time. Here's Nate Perkins.
Hi, Holland.
Hey.
You told Brian that you try to treat it as a normal tournament, but we all know it's the World Championships. It's the biggest tournament of the year. When your mind, lets yourself visualize you holding up that trophy, how do you push out those thoughts and the nerves that come with those visualizations?
Yeah, I mean, I let myself kind of picture what those final moments like leading into the end of the tournament might feel like, and then also recognize that there's a lot of things I have to go right before that. So I try to make sure I spend more time in my visualizing kind of the little details, the getting up and down, what my pre-shot routine is, picturing putts, dropping, and that sort of thing. I really try to just visualize my routines and like see them working for me, because that just helps build confidence, and then knowing that if I do that enough times, I've got a shot at holding it up at the end. So
when you're visualizing those routines, like which course is kind of taking up more space in your mind, or is it even course specific at all?
I've probably played both courses in my head an equal number of times.
Okay.
But like I know with my putt, like I know I'm going to feel things, I'm going to want to tense up, but I know too that if I just focus on my aim point really, really hard, everything kind of relaxes and my body just goes. And so I'm kind of practicing trusting myself in my head, and also just seeing the shots that I want and kind of telling my body and my subconscious what I want it to do, so that hopefully when the time comes, it does it.
Which course gives you more nerves when you think about it?
Honestly, that's hard, because I think like the woods sometimes does give me a little bit more nerves, but there are a lot of OB carries at Ivy Hill, and so I know one thing I need to make sure I'm doing this week is not trying too hard to throw the disc really hard, because a lot of times what happens is I end up turfing it, and there's several holes where you can't afford to turf it, so just got to stay smooth.
I mean, a year ago in the summer, people would definitely consider you more of an open course player, but I don't think that's the case now. Are the slower speed shots at New London giving you more trouble than the distance shots out here at Ivy Hill?
If I had to pick, I'd say I'm probably a little bit better still at the distance lines. But like kind of the theme for me this year has been working on the short game. I think almost all of my field sessions have at least been mostly short game. And like a little bit of long. I haven't really practiced like long shots at all this season. It's really just been getting the basics up to speed, because I feel like that's where in the past I've lost the most strokes.
When your field is talking about the problem holes out here at Ivy Hill, how much are you involving yourself in those discussions?
Basically none. After my first round here, like Tyler and I were both pretty exhausted, and we had carted the course, and we were driving to the gym or driving to lunch, and I told him, I was like, my goal is to not complain about these courses.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's where, like, that in and of itself is going to gain me strokes, because like having a negative mindset and telling yourself you don't like a course is going to make you play worse.
When you hear your field complaining about distances, do you feel pity?
So I think like maybe hole 13, I think would be fair to give them a little bit more of a landing zone. But for the most part, not really.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the people who consistently throughout the year complain about distance, like they have room to improve their technique.
Yeah.
They could be going to the gym and getting stronger and more explosive, but they're not. So I don't feel that bad.
Yep. What percentage of the field, speaking of that hole, is comfortably making that shot?
I'm not really sure. I mean, when I played it for the first time, I was like, oh yeah, there's definitely people who can't make this. And I think part of that is the distance, but part of it too is there's a little bit of a right to left wind. So anyone who's trying to throw that flex shot, as soon as the disc starts turning and the top of the disc gets into the wind, it's just getting slammed down. I'm kind of surprised by some of the players I'm seeing chime in and say that they're not making it.
Yeah.
But it seems like maybe the top third can comfortably make it distance-wise.
Holland, last question. Do you feel like these two courses are a fair test to determine the best disc golfer in the world?
Yeah, absolutely. They demand every shot, every shot technically, but every shot with like angle control with all of these elevated holes. And then also it's a physical test. It's going to be a physical and a mental test, which is exactly what the World Championship should be. So.
Thanks so much, Holland. Good luck.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back and welcoming in your world number one in the MPO division, Ganon Buhr. Ganon, we're in Virginia. You told me you have kind of a fun fact for me. Let's just kick it off with that. What is this fun fact?
The fun fact is I am on home turf.
Elaborate.
I was actually born in Virginia.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you didn't really play disc golf when you were growing up?
No.
Okay.
But I've been here quite a bit, so that might help, I guess.
Truly was a kind of fun fact.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't too crazy, but it's kind of cool.
Well, Ganon, a lot's happened since you moved away from Virginia and owned your disc golf skills in Iowa. We're back here for the World Championships. Let's just get right into it. How are these 36 holes playing out for you?
Well, I've been playing with Isaac quite a bit, and he's looking incredible right now. I think he was 9 under through 10 yesterday when we played here at Ivy Hill, and that's with playing hole 5 for par. So he was just he's playing amazing right now, which is scary, but it's kind of good because I can see some of the lines he's been taking. I feel okay. I got a lot of practice rounds in. I think I'm going to have 6 total at New London and 3 total at Ivy. So I know the courses very well. It just depends on how my execution is. My games felt a little bit off. Nothing's super terrible, but nothing's really good right now. But that's something that I think I can fix just tonight, even if I just go work on some stuff. So that shouldn't be a problem. But I was talking, if you shoot 8 down a round, you probably win, no problem. Obviously the only goal out here at Worlds is to stay in it after round 1. If you can just give yourself a chance. I think I was saying, with 2 rounds to go, if I can be within 4, I'd feel pretty confident. I'd say this course out here at Ivy Hill definitely suits my game a little bit better. Just in case I'm a little bit off, I can still get the birdies. Where at New London, if you're off, you're going to be taking bogeys. But yeah, New London's in my top 10 courses ever, so I'm excited to play that one, which I think helps a lot. I got to play mixed doubles there as well, so I got a little bit of a taste of kind of how it feels to play in a competition. And I was throwing pretty good out there, so I'm looking forward to it.
Just have so much to ask, but first I want to zoom in. You said that you're taking some lines from Isaac at Ivy Hill, but Ivy Hill matches the way that you like to play the game. What was Isaac doing so well in practice that you wanted to model your game plan after?
His placement's really good right now. He's just throwing these pretty straight drivers. I call them neutral to stable. They fade a little bit at the end, but so I'll be probably throwing like a straight PD2 or maybe even my PD on a lot of holes out here, just trying to land 450 feet down the fairway in position. There's a couple holes that, one, aren't worth going for. 17's a little bit weird. I honestly still don't really know the play on that hole. If I'm having a good round, I might just lay up, but I might also just go for it and hope I stick the island. But I think I have a pretty good game plan for the rest of the course. Obviously, tonight I'm going to look at the caddy books and stuff like that and make sure I know all the rules. I know there's a lot of drop zones out here, so got to make sure, that might affect the game plan a little bit. But, yeah, I feel good. I think I tested everything I wanted to. I'm about to go over and play New London right now to get prepped for tomorrow's round. Just get dialed in the discs I'm going to throw in certain shots. That way I can feel good about, where I'm trying to hit my landing zones, and then obviously just get some putting practice in.
Well, you just won the European Open, and you had to play the Tampere Disc Golf Center, the Monster, which some people are comparing some of the lines to at New London. Talk about New London. Talk about the shapes. What's required of you out there as a player?
Yeah, I'd say it's a mix between the Monster and W.R. Jackson, which are like two of my favorite courses, so that's pretty fun. There's only, I think, a couple holes that are actually super tightly wooded out there. A lot of them, you're just in the woods throwing through these kind of wide fairways, and so I think it's all about just advancing down the fairways, especially on like something like hole 2. You don't want to start your tournament off with a bogey on the second hole. I think that hole is, as long as you keep it in the fairway, you should get a par every time. It's when you get off the fairway, you maybe try to get a little more distance, trying to go for too much on the scramble shot. That's where you get in trouble out there. And what's kind of unique and difficult at the same time at these courses are there's definitely birdies you almost have to get, and it kind of adds that little extra pressure because you have a lot of like easy holes and a lot of really hard holes and no like medium holes. And so it really tests your kind of mental fortitude to get those easy birdies and then play smart and safe on the harder holes.
A lot of players who are at the top of their game and peaking at this World Championship are saying that they want to try to treat this just like any other tournament. They don't want to put this tournament on a pedestal. What about you? Does this tournament go on a pedestal for you, or is it the same as everything else?
Yeah, I think it's one of the last pieces that I need to, achieve in terms of like tournaments to win. Obviously, I have the European Open, I have the US DGC. If I could get this one, all I need is the Champions Cup, which I feel pretty confident with it being at the OTB course next year. So, if I could get the career Grand Slam within, before I'm 21 years old, that'd be a dream come true to, kind of prove myself that I can win at any tournament. For me, it definitely does go on a pedestal. This is like my number one I want to win. I think this week you got to have a lot of preparation, take it seriously. If your game's off, just do whatever you can to get it back to where it needs to be. But, worst case, maybe it doesn't feel great. Make a game plan around that. So that way, your bad shots still end up okay. And it's always giving yourself a chance. I'm looking for low OB rates, hitting the fairways in the woods. Pretty typically what I do on, courses like this. But, I got to look at, even if I'm feeling a little bit nervous, I need to look at the stats of what I've done this year so far. And having won 4 of, I think, the 5 4-round tournaments this year, I got to like my chances with even another round. If I can come out of the gates hot, I feel pretty comfortable. I just need to not add too much unwanted pressure on myself, knowing that this tournament means a lot to me.
We were just talking to Paul and talking about his 2015 season, which people are starting to compare your season to. And Paul told me that when he was training during that season, it was like an obsessive level of training. How obsessed with disc golf and preparing for these tournaments do you feel at this point in your life?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I do technically as much training, but I try to train effectively. That way I get everything out of my training, which is, I think, that huge growing up was looking at form and stuff like that and watching people play rounds that were successful to find what game plans are the best. And that way I can throw the shots that are going to give me the best chance even when I'm not playing my best golf. And so I think my training has been very intentional and very specific. I'm not really just out there chucking. I'm trying to work on very specific lines and specific shots. My warm-ups changed this year. I've been eating healthier when it comes to the tournament weeks, stuff like that. And so I think all these little pieces build together. And, if all of them fall into place, like I said, I think I have a decent shot out here.
Well, Ganon, thank you so much for your time. Good luck out there this week. We'll see you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back in just a few.
And we've welcomed in Owen Scoggins. Owen, you're coming off a win at Idlewild. You're coming off a win at the World Doubles. How was the World Doubles experience with Joel Freeman?
My God, it's just play with your best friend. Relaxing, support each other. I make a mistake, he cover me. He make a mistake, I cover him. It's just like chill. It's just like a play with your buddy. Yeah.
Well, you're playing with your buddy, but you're also playing, a competitive round. How does it compare to just going out to the course and practicing it?
It's crazy because me and him, we're not even stressed out much at all. We just thinking, just idiot what it is, He talked to me like, we're just gonna having fun, and there was some thinking too. We're just gonna having fun, and just a little bit like pressure because we win last year. But overall, I think like we both have some skill. Like he throw very far, and I have some technical in the wood, so he can help that. And both of us throw backhand and sidearm, and both of us make, we make some good pass. So it's not very stretched out much at all.
Well, Owen, talk about these two courses. Do you feel like they are a good test to determine the best disc golfer?
To be honest, I really love the wood course one, and the open one. I feel like maybe 1 or 2 holes can be changed to the better for like top. It's not top like for a 90 woman who like come from so far, save vacation, save a lot of money to come here to have some good experience, and then see the course like this. I feel like it's gonna break a lot of people's heart because some of the holes should be changed to be better for at least the top 50 of us.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like a lot of holes. I'm talking about one hole, especially hole 13. I feel like you have to throw like pretty much like 350 to make the island. I think that one pretty much a little bit ridiculous for me, to be honest. And then anything else, I think everybody is fine. Hole 17, at least you have some drop zone. A lot of us gonna be land on the drop zone and move on. But 13 is pretty much like, I feel like I just have to throw the disc in front of me and then walk to the drop zone.
Yeah.
Why I'm not even throw when I'm not even gonna make it? I mean, just only one, and then anything else I feel like is fair. I think is good. Like we asking for only one hole to change. That's all.
Well, and do you feel like yours and others' feedback has been heard by the tournament?
I mean, I hope so. I think they probably heard here and there, but I don't know they're gonna change or not. But I would love them to be changed. Just think about like we have 90 women. We not make the course just only top 15 or top 10 in the world. Like you need to think about top 50%, to be fair. I know like not of us gonna make the cut, but at least give them some chance to even par. You know what I'm saying? I feel like to make everybody happy, I feel like even move like 30 feet, closer to us, and then 50 of us gonna make it to the island. So far, I didn't see anything change, and anything else is fine. Everything else we happy. Only one problem right there.
Well, a lot of people are talking about not only that hole, but the distance in general out here at Ivy Hill. And when you discuss yourself, or when people talk about your game, you talk about how much you like the technical side of the game, but then you've won on courses like the Open at Austin. You've won at D-Glow, which is garnering some comparisons to Ivy Hill. Where's your confidence level at with the long golf course here?
I feel like this court is harder than Great Lake course, like 5 times harder.
Really?
Start from hole 1 already. Start from hole 1, I feel like more than 50% will be OB right away. Like maybe top 40% will make it inbound, and then top 60% will be OB right away. And then of course hole 13. And a lot of hole was like a lot of OB, long OB. But you know what? I know I'm gonna be OB here and there, but everybody gonna OB too. But I'm kind of like skip on those kind of problem. I can deal with those, and like I said, only one hole I really don't like about that. Or maybe the other hole was that the one you have to throw the hole across the water. I feel like some of who like 80, 800 rating, 900 rating, probably gonna lose this. A lot of them probably just gonna be like, wow, I'm gonna lose this here. It's no, or they can just like I said, walk to drop zone and do it. I feel like the layout pretty tough. Normally I don't like to complain much, but I think this one was quite our hand here and there.
Yeah. So you're playing safe on a lot of holes out here at Ivy Hill. How's your confidence level at the wooded track?
Man, that court is tough too. But even tough, I like it. It's technical, but long technical. It's requirement like distance to be. You need to throw far and straight, or shape line far. If you throw short, it doesn't help you either. Even you like, I feel like both of them. It just the wood court is kind of tough also for me. Like I'm looking for like whoever shot. I feel like top 3 is have to be like 6, 7 down up to like 10, I guess. 4, 5 probably top 10, 4, 5 down top 10. But I really love that course. It's nothing bad to say about that course. Yeah.
Well, they've talked a lot about how it's difficult for the lefty backhand and it's difficult for the righty forehand. What does your distribution of backhand versus forehand look like out there off the tee?
I feel like it might be harder for left hand, I guess, because somebody throw backhand, you can still throw Anheuser. It will shape up like an ace line. You still can throw like and then finish like that. The side arm is kind of like very tight. Only like 2-3 hole you can throw side arm. I think that court is fit with the backhand more.
Yeah.
So I use a lot of backhand more than side arm over there. But of course, like whoever throw far and accuracy will kill that course. Like amazing. I'm looking for like maybe 10 down. If somebody like have a hot round.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Owen, where's the physical health at right now? You're coming off a win. You had a week in between. How's the elbow?
Today I take a day off because yesterday I practiced the IV course. Man, everything just I have to throw my arm up. So this morning I woke up, I'm like, my arm is kind of like hurt, so I'm just gonna take it easy. I don't know. I have been dealing with like a year right now. Hopefully next year will be gone. Who knows? Because I keep using them all the time. The end of this year, I'll take 2 months off. Should be better next year. Yeah.
So the elbow's hurting. Are you still able to get in the same repetition of putts even when that elbow's hurting? Or are you lay off that as well?
I putt worse. When I don't have elbow problem, my putting was good.
Yeah.
I putting more solid. But when I hurt my elbow, of course, you have to cut down a lot. Like I said, I can't able to just play one round and then probably 150, 200 putt. Just hurt more. It's just not cardy for me anymore. But my heart still fight though. My heart's 100%.
Yeah.
But my elbow, just kind of scream here and there. But I don't care, whatever. It is what it is. So.
All right, Owen. Your heart's at 100% as always. Test this week.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back, and last but not least, Ricky Wysocki joins us. Dawn of the World Championships, Ricky, how you feeling?
I feel a lot better than Idlewild. So yeah, as everyone's probably heard, I got the rib pop back in and had a week to recover, and so it's been great. I feel almost back to 100%, which is good timing.
It's a really quick recovery. What did you do during that time to get to this point?
Yeah, I obviously the chiropractor helped, a lot of ice baths, and then after Idlewild took like 3 or 4 days off and just let all the muscles around my, the rib that kind of popped out, kind of let those heal and let the inflammation go away. And so that worked out really well. Was able to do that, and yeah, just jumped in the ice bath every night. That was a huge key to recovery.
You gave us quite the show at the last major. 14 under, unbelievable golf, almost taking it from Ganon. But you got second, and now we're coming into the World Championships. You left the last one on a high note. How's your game feeling right now and this week?
It feels really good. I mean, it's just as good as it was in the Europe swing. I think Idlewild was just, I shouldn't even have played. It was just, I didn't know what was going on with my shoulder, and I just kind of limped through that tournament and just wasn't in any sort of shape to even play half decent. So this week, I'm really back to my good form like I had in Europe. So I'm really happy for that. I'm happy that I'm bringing good form into this week, and that's all I need. Get some good form, and that turns into confidence.
I got to ask, and I think a lot of people were asking themselves this last week. I think a lot of people felt the same way you felt about Idlewild, and they were wondering, why did you keep playing? Why didn't you drop out? Is it just part of your moral compass to not drop out?
Yeah, kind of. I planned on playing, and I kind of felt like it was the type of injury that wasn't going to get worse. It was just really hard to play through it. It wasn't like I was going to injure the shoulder more. I probably technically could have, but yeah, I just threw pretty much only sidearms, and the course is very sidearm friendly. So yeah, I don't know. I like playing disc golf, and so yeah, I didn't want to take a week off right before Worlds. I wanted to, not that it playing injured is ever that good for you, but yeah, I enjoy playing.
Well, you're a multiple-time major champion. You're coming here to grab your third world title, and your career rival, Paul McBeth, designs one of the courses that you're playing the Worlds on. How did he do?
He did great. I think that course is amazing. He did a good job. It's challenges. I think the unique part about that course is it's a wooded course, but you're having to throw drivers. Like a lot of wooded courses, you just think, oh, okay, just pull up my mid-range putter maybe. Like you're having to rip drivers on a lot of these the top par fours. You're throwing driver and sometimes driver again. So you don't have the luxury just to disc down just because it's a tunnel shot or it's a long hole. You got hole 3, I think, is like 1,000-foot par 4 where you're having to throw 2 drivers for sure. And so it's just, yeah, there's a lot of length out there. It's not just the typical short wooded course that you would imagine. So yeah, it's a great, very well designed course.
What percentage forehand, backhand are you throwing out there at New London? I think a lot of players are saying backhand.
Yeah, I would say backhand for sure. Paul definitely mixed in some flex forehands, and but I think there's a lot of very standard short hyzer flip putter mid-range shots that Paul's really good at, and so I think he definitely showcases his skills when it comes to the design. So that's for sure. But yeah, I think that it's you still have to throw the shots no matter if you're Paul or anyone else in the field. So yeah, it's I think there's one par 5 for sure that I'm not pulling out anything besides the putter, and so it's just all placement and OB, and so I think OB even on that course there's OB on 80% of the holes, and out here it's 100% of the holes. So out there you just have the woods in addition to the OB. Here it's pretty much just out of bounds, and so yeah, if it gets any sort of wind on any of the courses, it's going to be a lot of tough scoring going on. So yeah, I'm excited. I think that's the biggest thing. If you want to become world champion, you got to be able to adapt to the conditions and deviate from your game plan. You can't just make a game plan and expect all the conditions to be the exact same as your practice rounds. And I think that's something I'm really good at.
A lot of people saying how much they love the layout of New London. Then they come to Ivy Hill, and not that they don't like it, but they say it's a beast of a track. What are you doing out here? What's the game plan looking like?
Yeah, this course is a beast for sure. I think it's just, obviously the length, but then you also have some downhill holes, so some holes play shorter than the actual distance, but then you got the other way around where you have some holes may say 500 feet, but it's straight up a hill. It plays like 800 feet. So some holes play a lot further than they say on paper, and some play a little bit shorter, but it's going to be hot and humid. I think that, a lot of players have only played this course with golf carts, so you're going to see a lot of, stamina is going to be a big thing playing 3 rounds out here with this heat and humidity. So yeah, I'm packing a lot of snacks, a lot of electrolyte powders, all that kind of good stuff. And yeah, it's going to be I love that it's 5 rounds on a grueling course. I think that's awesome. I think that's exactly what we need.
Have you been taking the golf carts during your practice rounds, or are you trying to get the game time feel in the legs?
Yeah, I think I've been doing ice baths every night, so that's a huge benefit for me, just to be able to get that quick recovery for the next day, and it's very important in my recovery. I think it's changed the game, and it's I don't feel sore. It takes all that away. But I've been playing in the golf cart.
So, very funny delivery on that one. You cracked me for a second. There's a lot of uphill, downhill shots out here. Especially with the uphill, it seems like a lot of players play it differently, whether it's stability or run-up or alignment. How do you play some of these severe uphill or severe downhill shots? Is there a big adjustment?
Yeah, I mean, there really is. The first time through, I was just bombing drivers on some of these par 4s with down slopes and all that good stuff. But now I'm kind of like some of the par 4s, I'm toning down to where I can land a little bit more on a flat spot instead of getting an extra 100 feet and then you're running up on a downslope trying to go back up. It's super awkward. So I'd rather land 50, 100 feet back and have a nice flat run up and going up a hill and with a nice flat run up instead of trying to run up downhill to throw uphill. It's just really awkward on the body control. And so, yeah, I think I'm not necessarily trying to bomb to go as far as I can down the fairway. I'm trying to not only land safe, but I'm also trying to land on the flat part of the fairways if I can.
Rick, thank you so much for your time. Here's Nate Perkins.
Thanks.
Hey, Rick.
Hey.
And earlier this year, you were smoking those generals. Like, smoking them. I've thrown as far as, you've ever really thrown. Since the rib, have you noticed any pullback on the distance at all?
A little bit, but I think throughout the week of practice, I'm starting to get it back. My body's starting to move in the way that I want it to, and so I'm able to get that back. So I definitely was at first. Idlewild was, definitely like hole 1. Idlewild, the last day I was able to get the eagle, but that's kind of a gauge for me. If I'm throwing real far and really clean, I can reach that hole. And I was able to once I got the rib popped back in. So, yeah, now that I'm healthy, I think that I'm right back to normal, throwing the generals on a lot of shots out here, forehand, backhand, and that's going to be one of my go-tos.
So during practice for Worlds, you weren't toning it back, going, "Hey, I'm going to have the power come tournament." You were going full speed ahead. Yeah,
no, I'm practicing just like I would in a tournament now. Cool. I'm right back to normal, and there's nothing in my body that's inhibiting me from throwing the shots that I know I'm going to need to throw to win a world title. So that's a very positive sign for me, and like I said, I'm very confident in my game.
Ricky, this isn't so much a question, but a lot of people are saying that this is a young man's game. You got to go do it for the 30 and over. You got to go do it. You got to keep these kids out of the game just a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, it's this Worlds. I think more than any tournament is it's all about consistency. I mean, I think that if you can stay healthy, if you can stay out there. I mean, you've seen Cole. He got injured. I mean, he's in his young 20s, so it doesn't matter how old you are. You're putting a lot of torque on your body, and it's these courses are long. You're having to, if you want to have your game in a world championship form, you have to practice all day, every day, and that's risking hurting your body. And that's just kind of what we do. We put our bodies on the line to come out here and try to win a world title, and that's what it's all about.
Ricky, thank you so much, man. Best of luck on chasing down your 3rd world title.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, y'all.